It looks like it's loading up. Okay. So looks like we might be live on your live video. It starts in 3 minutes. Oh, yeah, I think there's a bit of a lag there, but we should be live on Facebook and YouTube, I think. But this is episode 2, so we'll have to see how it goes. Learning as I go along, but we'll take it as it comes. What's the time now? We have... Okay,
I think you got 3 minutes.
3 minutes, that's all right. Well, we'll just chill out for a little bit here. Just make sure everything's working. Like I said, this is all new to me, so can't pass messages to some channels. Let's just see. Hello, everyone. Welcome. Come and join us on Thanksgiving for episode 2. Hopefully this is working. Yeah, it looks like it's posted, so
I think the Facebook one went up because I got a notification here, so
perfect. All right then. Well, it's a couple minutes to go. Like I said, I think everything's working. There might be a bit of a delay. I can see on my restream audio there's a big lag, but hopefully it's not with the audio. It's just between us. But okay. All right. Well, I guess this is the start of episode 2 of the Success Shift here on a lovely Thanksgiving day. I'm here with Emmanuel Karra, so thank you very much for showing up and giving me your time today, Manny. It's been great to get to know you over the short period of time. As it is Thanksgiving, I will say a few things that I'm grateful for. Number 1, being your time and actually getting to meet you. It's been a short friendship, but it's been a good one. Number 2, I'd have to say, is the Germans. I've just moved to Germany, and pretty much all of them can speak English, which is a huge help for me. I haven't really had a situation where I've had to stop and be completely lost, which I thought might happen. So that's absolutely amazing. And just my family and friends at home. It's been, as I'm sure you're aware, Manny, in these sort of times, it's been a while since I've been home, and it's just nice to think back at the lucky situation that I have come from and how lucky I am to have the ability to travel and do the things I'm doing. So I'm super grateful for my family and friends at home. What about you, Manny? Is there anything you want to have gratitude for today on Thanksgiving?
I think there's always a lot, and I can say the same about you, and then I can also say the same about Mexicans speaking English, because I'm over here in Mexico at the moment, and the English language does come in handy when you can't speak good Spanish. But there's a lot to be grateful for. I think overall, just the ability to travel, to work while traveling, and to have a bunch of crazy adventures throughout this weird, wacky time that the world's in at the moment. I think that alone is something to be grateful for.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, some people are definitely not in the same situation, and I must admit, moving from Mexico to Germany, I've definitely noticed a difference in that sort of the freedom that we've got down there or over there compared to what it's like here. It's a little bit different, so it's,
definitely.
it makes me grateful for the time I had in Mexico. But so to anyone in America, happy Thanksgiving. I'm sure it's not much of a thing from where I'm from, but it's always good to be grateful, I believe. So for anyone who sort of hasn't caught the wind of what this show is about, I sort of did my episode 1 explaining a little bit about it, but the whole idea for me here is to get into the minds of people who have been successful or think they're successful in any sort of way. Personally, for me, I believe that success is more of a state of mind. And, we always see things online, on Instagram, on Facebook pages, like do this and this and this to be successful, or this and this and this are the successful traits of a billionaire. But sometimes it's actually hard to implement them. And I know myself, I've been through phases of, okay, I'm going to get these traits down and do them repetitively, and then I'll be successful. But I figured it's actually harder than it seems, and so what better way of actually jumping into the minds of people who have had success or believe that they're successful, and figuring out what it's like from the other side, I guess you'd say. Now I'm joined here with Emmanuel Karra. He's a young bloke, 24, right, Manny?
24, yes.
24. And when we first met in Mexico, he was pretty much living the same sort of lifestyle as me, getting away from the world of Corona and trying to jump into a bit more of a freer lifestyle. And we connected pretty quickly, had similar sort of concept and ideas, and told me a bit about your pretty adventurous travels and success in the e-commerce world so far at such a young age. So I thought it'd be good to jump on, have you on the first episode and get to know a little bit more about that. But why don't you tell us a bit about your story of the e-commerce world?
Yeah, sure. So everything e-commerce that I've done so far, and that I think I will do, I've done alongside my brother. And essentially, we started looking into e-commerce and working with e-commerce. I was 17, I think, when we first started, and then from that point onwards, I wish we stuck to something and worked on it, but we definitely jumped and worked on multiple different things. So I would say from 17 till about, I'd say 20, 21, we probably launched about 15 different kinds of stores and worked in different ways. And most of them didn't really succeed, but from each of them there was something to be learnt, and then we would take that into the next store, whether it was web design or Facebook ads or anything like that. So it was good, but it was challenging, because at the end of the day, when you're pushing money into something and you're not getting money in return, it can get hard and frustrating. But eventually we started working on one of our projects, which was Tobu Sneaker. And basically Tobu Sneaker, we saw that within the sneaker industry, or the streetwear industry, there was a lot of money to be made, and there was a lot of easy marketing to be done, although you had to come in with a solid product. And we weren't looking to build a brand to compete with streetwear, but we were building a brand that we wanted to put something that someone could take these sneakers that they were buying and wanting to display in their homes, with rooms filled with sneakers, how they could display them in a cool way, and compared to just putting them on the shelf. So we came up with the concept of the levitating sneaker display, and we worked on that for about a year and a half before launching it. And then once we launched it went absolutely crazy. And from that point onwards, there was 3 months spent in the US, touring with SneakerCon, and it was great. There were a lot of ups and there were a lot of highs. We met with a lot of big celebrities, a lot of big names, a lot of big athletes. Although, with that being said, there were a lot of challenges that came with that. And from that, we've also learned. And I think the higher or the bigger it gets with e-commerce, or the business gets, the bigger the challenges get. And every time that has happened so far in our journey with e-commerce, we've learnt. And then we went on to our next project, and we learnt from Tobu what we did wrong and what we did right. But all in all, we had crazy memories and crazy adventures. And I think that's what was important about it. I think it was the fact that we created something that, at the time at least, it felt for us that the whole world was watching and the whole world was interested in. And I think that was the goal. And yeah, of course, you want to be smarter next time, whether it was with taxes or whether it was with customs or whatever it be, financially, so you can keep the business going. But I mean, for us at the time, I think, I was 19 when we launched it, and it was some of the craziest time of my life.
It's a young age for things to go pretty big and pretty fast, because I mean, we'll get into it in a second, but you were telling me that it happened pretty quickly, that it took off. Is that right?
Yeah, it was one day I was working in a factory, stacking boxes, and don't get me wrong, even while I was working there, it wasn't like I was just doing that, because we'd been working on business outside of my 9-to-5 job. I'd be doing that every single day. But it was the kind of thing where overnight you get a call and you're like, we need you in New York, and then you get another call and they're like, we need you in Denver, and we need you in Tokyo, and we need you in London. And it overnight things just went absolutely crazy, and you're meeting celebrities and you're meeting athletes, and it was very intense. But I do think from a lot of it there was a lot of things that I learned, and there are a lot of downtimes within it all that I think from that, if I'm put in that same position now, it's taught me how to handle those situations and how to understand that it's all temporary. And you, you I don't know how to explain it, but you're in the moment, it feels like the world can come crushing down. But it was also a thing not to attach myself to business. And I think anyone that is getting involved in e-commerce or in any kind of business must understand that your identity is not your business.
Yeah.
A lot of people, especially myself at the time, it was like I would identify with my business. I would identify with what I was doing. So when I was having a bad time, I would identify with that.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
you need to detach yourself from it and understand it is the business. Enjoy the flow of it, but it'll have its good times, it will have its bad times, and hopefully it has more good times than bad times.
Yeah, I suppose it's kind of hard. I mean, what about if you were trying to like have a personal brand as yourself? Would you say that because you had a sort of a brand, and then you had your like yourself? But I know, like for me personally, the way I come across and the things I share, it's kind of like a personal brand. So I have to engulf myself a lot into my brand or my business. But would you still say that there's like that definite well, it's hard for you, I guess, having an input on this because you had the difference, but saying like, okay, I need to draw the line. This is personal Jake business, and this is personal Jake non-business. Do you know what I mean? So you're trying to find that differential line between you and your brand, who is you, which is kind of a hard concept, I suppose, if you haven't been there.
I mean, it depends, I guess, how authentic your brand is. Because if your brand is entirely you and it's as authentic as possible, then there's no difference, and it's like that is your identity. But with what I was doing, at least, I figured out not long afterwards that this is not who I'm interested in. This
Yeah.
is not, or this is not what I'm interested in. I got involved in this because I saw opportunity on a business standpoint. So don't identify yourself as this just because it's the business that you're running at the time.
Yeah. You're still
so I
Manny,
think,
who found an opportunity, not Manny, who is the shoe industry sort of thing. So there's like that differential.
I
Yeah.
remember someone would come up to, like, we'd have people come up to like, you're the floating sneaker guys.
It's like,
No,
I'm still me.
Emmanuel.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm not the flow
yeah,
sneaker guy. I'm Emmanuel,
yeah,
who just took
yeah,
advantage of flow sneakers and ran with it. Yeah.
yeah,
You,
yeah. So, but yeah, I mean, through that, and then we moved on to after that a few other projects. We did some drop shipping during the lockdown period in Australia, and we did very well with that.
nice.
And now we've kind of put everything aside and we're working on a surf brand because as you know, I bought a surfboard from you.
Yeah, you did. Yeah, down in
Um,
Mexico.
but yeah, I love surfing, and for me and my brother, that's more
Where your passion is.
that correlates more with who we are. And I think at this stage in my life, I definitely recommend to anyone getting involved in business, like, don't look at the dollar signs, look at what do you genuinely love and see how you can implement something good within that industry.
Yeah,
um,
they say that, find what you love doing and then figure out how you can make money doing that rather than find money and then, involve yourself
yeah,
in that as
definitely.
your being. I think that's a very good point because I know that lots of people, I mean, especially when I started looking at ways to make money online, it was how can I make money? Not what do I love doing? Who am I as a person? And then how can I capitalize and share that with people and then earn from that? Because what's the typical saying, if you love what you do, you don't work a day in your life. So
Yeah, and it might sound cliche, but there's a lot of value in that. I definitely think
cliches are cliches for a reason, right? It's because
yeah,
it's
that's true.
continuously used for truth. But yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah, so
But before we get any further, so you started at 17. That's quite young to start into e-commerce. Why did you start doing e-commerce? What drove you in that direction?
I would say when I was 17, I made the decision after high school, or 17, 18. After high school, I was like, I'm not going to go to university.
Yeah.
For me at the time, there wasn't anything that I felt I wanted out of university, so I didn't decide to go. But I knew that there was something that I wanted to do, at least within finance, and I knew that I didn't want to work I didn't want to work that typical 9 to 5 for the rest of my life. Although when I turned 18, I did start working, and I worked long hours. I was doing probably 40, 50 hours a week,
Yeah.
which might not be the longest hours, but they're still, it can still take its toll
Take
on
its
you. And
toll.
I realized in that moment that, like, looking around me, there were a lot of people that were far older than me that were working the same job and had been working there for a while. And I was like, okay, I don't want to be here for the next 35 years of my life. There's things I want to do and places I want to be and people I want to help. Um, so me and my brother, we basically just come together and we were like, let's start some form of a business. And we
Yeah.
went from there. And then before we knew it, it was like I said, we worked on so many different projects that each one of them we slowly learned something more and more. And then before you know it, once you get to the next one, it's like you don't even realize that you have all this information built up. And I do think that with e-commerce, like, you can watch as many courses as you want and you can listen to as many seminars as you want, but well, with business as a whole, until you get into it and you do it, like, no one can teach you it. You have to go through it.
So
I really do believe that.
Yeah, I think that I totally agree. I mean, I've been in the online space for a couple of years and I've learnt so much, but actually putting into action, I haven't done as much as I could. And so my growth hasn't been that fast. But this was the whole reason that I sort of started this show, was that I had this dream and this plan and like the idea of talking to people, but I wasn't taking action on it. And I was like, you know what, I'm just going to go for it and just stumble through the process and grow as I, progress. And it doesn't matter if I'm not perfect at the start. The idea is that I learn along the way. And I think this is exactly as you're saying, you can learn all the things you want, but as soon as you step into that world, you really don't know what you're doing and don't know what you need to work on and stuff like that. Same with my
Oh,
engineering,
definitely.
same sort of thing.
Definitely. I think as well, on top of that, like, you'll learn and you won't even realize it. You could be like, if we get on this call 6 months down the track, for all you know, there might be a new camera lens, or I don't know what you want to change on your channel, but there might be small things that you didn't even realize in the moment were something that was a change that, or
Needed.
a teaching that you had. And I feel like with e-commerce, at least that's what we went through. It was the type of thing where now it's like within our minds, like, okay, when we create a logo, this is how we do it. Whereas if you took us back 5 years ago, it'd be completely different. And how we've learned how to do it might have been through looking up different psychological aspects of logos or colors or anything of that, and then it's imprinted in the back of your mind, but we don't think about it. It just now occurs. And I think I could vouch for my brother as well. He would say the same. And I think just over time, dabbling in that field and being willing to dabble and being willing to take our losses,
Yeah.
or
I think that's
break evens. And
sorry, go on.
yeah, I think a lot of people get involved in this, and to spend a little bit of money and take a loss and not see a lot of money, it can hurt them. And the people that I think I know will do well in e-commerce, like, I've got a friend back home that I know he'll do well, and he's started to do well now, was because he got involved in his first 2 businesses. He took a bunch of losses, but the enthusiasm that he had still to be involved in it and get it going was still there. And just that same enthusiasm to have that with the Paul business, after consecutively taking a loss after a loss after a loss, eventually it will start to work in your favor. And then when it does,
Yeah,
through those losses, you know how not to make them happen again.
I think that's pretty important thing. Is that determination and like having that vision for the end goal, even though you were, like you said before, like having, because you said you did like 15 businesses, but trying and failing and not getting any money, but still having the belief and the drive that this next one will be the one that works. This next one will be the one that works. And no matter how many times you didn't go through them, you still got back up on the horse. You tried again and you went for it. And then, the amount of times you tried, eventually one snapped you into success and you had the huge growth. And so
the thing is, if you can play around with numbers, and like, if you are driven by numbers, if you can play around with numbers and you believe in the product or service that you're selling, and you really, really do believe in it, and you can look at those numbers, and then if you just times them by, let's just say 10 a day, if that's what your goal is, to sell 10 of your products or your service a day, Usually those numbers they'll go quite high up, and then it will make you really realize that it's not that much usually with an e-commerce that you need to push over to get sold. But that comes down to, do you believe in your product and do you believe in your service?
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of people go into it and they don't believe in their product, they don't believe in their service, but they're selling it on the basis of, how can I profit for myself, not how can I give something to my consumer.
Yeah, profit. That's like profit over value, or impact over income.
Yeah,
all these sort of things that you need to differentiate.
Definitely. I mean, with us with Tobu, like we spent the box that we were selling the product alone was costing us, I think, 25, 30 USD.
Yeah, right.
Like we didn't take any shortcuts on the quality and the experience, because we knew that, especially within the industry that we were working within, that they would love that they would be happy to pay for that, because for them the luxury aspect of it is what sold it to them. And I think that was just within that industry, but in general I think it's like someone told me a while ago, like Apple, they don't need to put all the stickers and have the fancy box, but when you buy an iPhone, it's the experience. It's the experience of opening it up and pulling it out, and people want that enjoyment. Or if you get Beats headphones, they come with like the little case and then the box and then another box, and it's like, why so many boxes? They could just wrap it in plastic and give it to you.
Yeah.
But it's that experience, and I think,
so here we go. It's like Christmas. What have I got now? Like unraveling.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And sometimes they might put like a different scent in there as well, so when you open it, you smell something. So
it's an interesting idea.
It with that. But it's something that they do, and I think with all of this, it's the small things within it, and to be able to focus in and really love the product you're working or the service you're working in and believe in it. And if you believe in it, you will get people that will have interest towards it.
Yeah.
But I feel like a lot of people get into e-commerce, they go on to I'll go into Alibaba or AliExpress, which is like explain it. It's like where you find all your manufacturers or your products and whatnot, where a lot of people will, and they'll just pick something and it can be absolute garbage, and they'll try to sell it to people, and they'll know they're selling garbage.
But they're just trying to make the profits. They don't believe in what they're selling.
Yeah, I'm sure there are people that do it and make profits, but I also know that there are people that don't, and then they question, what am I doing, and why did I spend so much money on all this crap in a box? And
it's a hard thing to overcome, that that trying and failing with no money, or working X amount of hours a week for so long and not getting the payment. So I'm assuming those people who do that, like, yes, I'm going to go into this, I got a product, I'm going to make money off, it's going to be easy. But then they don't have that success because they've got the wrong reasoning behind it, I suppose, and they're not doing it for the right intention, and then having that failing. It's just like, how can I follow something I don't believe in and don't have the results from? And
I think it's that as well. And I think for me, what I found with e-commerce or business as a whole, and this could be with trading or whatever, it's the willingness to take risk.
Yeah.
And to take smart risks.
Calculated risks, yeah.
Be an idiot take calculated risks. And I think, like, I've talked to people before who have said they came to me for advice with e-commerce, and they asked me, I want to do this, I'm going to do that. And then I said, okay. And then they said, my supplier told me to buy samples. They were $200 or $300 for the samples. And I said, and is there an issue with that? And they're like, that's so expensive. And I was like, you spend $200, $300 on a weekend out.
Yeah, you go to the pub and blow that, no problem.
Yeah, so my question, like the way I started to view it, was when I started to talk to a lot of people that wanted to get involved, and they would just fold through it all. It was on the basis that they were fearful to use their money, and I get that. I get people work hard for their money, but I also think that there needs to be that thing where you can look at what the risk to reward factor is.
Yeah.
And I think even now with like the trading that I've been doing, I've mentioned it to a few people, and for them, they're like interested in how much I earned from it, but they're also looking at it and going, wait, how much do I need to put down? That's quite a lot. You know what I mean?
And just gonna have to pause you there. I've just had someone telling me that I don't know if they can hear me properly, so both of us. And there's been absolute fire value here, so I was really hoping that people can hear what we're saying. So I'm just going to go and double check to make sure that people are being able to hear us.
You
Okay.
can take your time with it.
Do you have Facebook up there at all? Can you hear us on the
Um,
live by any chance?
Let me see on my phone.
Because the last thing I'd want is for everyone to miss this, because I'm getting great value out of it.
Hear what we're saying, so
Yeah, this sounded kind of promising.
Oh no, they can hear us.
All right, perfect. Okay, I don't know what that was about. Brilliant.
I mean, your one, I can hear you. I can hear you clear.
Can you hear yourself?
Yeah, I can hear me as well.
Brilliant. Okay, I don't know. I must have just had the wrong message. That's good though. I just didn't want to continue on because, like I said, this is a new show to me, so I'm still learning all the bits, and I didn't want to do another 20 minutes of great value and then it's completely silent. So sorry about that.
Yeah, it's just us like mouthing.
Recording in progress.
Yeah, I'm just going to do that to double check so this is recorded. But anyway, sorry to cut you off there. Just wanted to make sure people could hear us. Go on.
But yeah, I don't know where I was at.
Sorry about that.
But yeah, I definitely think going back to what I was saying, I think there's the aspect of risk, and I think it's to take the risk, especially with e-commerce. And of course, it's much easier if you have your parents that give you money or anything like that. But like for myself and my brother included, like that wasn't something we had. For us, we took out a bank loan when we went into Toby Sneaker, but it wasn't even a question because we knew at the time that this was going to work. And that's the confidence you need to go into with your product or your service. And it can't, if you have to take out $50,000 to put into it, but you truly believe that this is going to give you results, it shouldn't even be a stress on your mind.
Right. Yeah, I was going to say, because the first time you said that, I was like, oh, that's a dangerous territory. But I suppose that's capitalizing on the borrowing of debt. But as you say, if you're 100% confident in it, then it shouldn't be a stress, which lots of people's minds, I think, struggle to have that interchangeable aspect of I'm borrowing this knowing full well that I'm putting it in for the right reasons with the right intention, rather than just, fuck it, I'm going to take it from the bank and see how it goes, which I think is completely two different mindsets.
It has to be the mentality that, like, I'm going into this and it's promising and that it's going to work, that there's no question in your mind that you're going to succeed with it. And I think that for some, it may not. It may not be like that. They might be going into it with, oh, this is okay. I think I can do okay here. And then, of course, taking a risk is gonna be hard. I mean, there has to be some risk. Like, even if you're running your ads, like your ad spend, you're spending money to get people to view your website. And sometimes you can spend a bunch of money on ads and then nothing happens. I mean, the last e-commerce store we set up, we spent, for the first 3 months, we spent a bunch of money. We spent thousands of dollars on ads and we didn't get much of a result. And then one day we just shifted them slightly because we knew that like little attributes of your ads can change so much.
Yeah.
And they started to kick on well. And then eventually we actually went to a marketing firm and we took it to them, and they took it and they skyrocketed it. So I do recommend that on e-commerce, is that what I found is we enjoy the aspect of finding products, dealing with the logistics and building a website. When it comes to ads, which is where you're going to make your money for the most part, if you can get a website or if you can get your platform running and it's making money, it doesn't need to be making a whole bunch of money. I definitely recommend going to a marketing team, just because like we found that with the marketing team we worked with, you've got 25 guys that are experts in all fields of marketing, and they're going to try and milk your, well, not milk your website, but try push your website to the extremes that it can go to. And
maximize it completely.
We probably times that website. We maximized that by you times the amount of people on the website, and then also we lessened our ad spend with them. It was incredible to see what they could do, and it's the understanding that each one of them has studied certain fields of that aspect of marketing. So even if I wanted to be an expert, I can't be 25 people at once.
I think that's the thing, and I think lots of people don't understand that. Like when I first came into the idea of being business, running business on your own, I was thinking, all right, now I'm going to have to learn to do absolutely everything. And at the start, maybe you can't afford to outsource certain tasks, but they say that some of the most successful people, and I don't know this for a fact, it's just what I've read, but some of the most successful people are those who know how to communicate and manage and network other people and utilize other people's skill sets to help your production. So some people are like, oh, I don't want to get them to do that, or I don't want them to help me there, or then I'm not really doing it myself. But companies that really boom, those are the kinds of people that go, right, I'm shit at marketing. Can you come help me? I'll pay you a certain thing. I'm going to reinvest my profits into that to help the growth. I'm shit at writing my ads or something. I need you to come in and spend my profits to help the growth. And it's kind of reinvesting into yourself and into your business to help expand it at a faster rate. And for me, that's something that I've learned over time. I just didn't have that in my head. I thought, you have to do it yourself. This big business, it's all on you. But really, it's quite the opposite, I think, to really grow, as you say, like going out to the advert people.
Definitely.
And I'm assuming that group.
I think there's people out there I've noticed that also have trust issues in involving people within their business, especially if that has some form of control.
Very true.
And I get that. And I remember for a while I was being told, don't involve this person, don't involve that person, because they'll screw you over. And that's what I'm saying. You have to be mindful of that. But at the same time, I do believe that there has to be an aspect of allowing others to come in and give their say, especially if they're experts in that field and you're not, and to understand that and put your ego aside and be able to say, okay, we're pretty good at this, but they're very good at this.
Yeah.
And they want to help us.
It's that ego, isn't it?
It might be with anything. Like we have a crew that we work with on Upwork, and they just do like, if we have anything with like web design, and my brother's very good at web design, but there are some things he can't do, and there are some things these guys do very well. And we can take it through to them and they'll have it done in a day. And I think it's just that understanding of finding the correct people.
And utilizing your time as well, I guess. Your brother might have been able to figure it out, but it might have taken him 4 days or 5 days. Why not go to someone who can get it done in a day? You can move on to the next thing.
What we found is, at least with the marketing team, if you're going to sit there trying to fix your ads and your Google ads and your Facebook ads and all this other kind of stuff and try to get them running full throttle every day, it takes away from the business. So for us now going into business, it's like, okay, we're always going to go with our marketing team. We're going to look for someone to take care of the customer care side of things, because with most of e-commerce, it's always customer care. And then what that does is it frees up your time, and you say, okay, the logistics, the customer care, and the marketing is taken care of. Now I can focus in on actually growing a business here. Because what we found was, with a lot of the stuff we do, if you're so involved and you're hands-on with everything, your business doesn't grow. Your business won't grow if you don't have the time.
Maxes out, doesn't it?
Yeah. Well, you're busy focusing on how am I going to get these orders from this country to this country, or what's happening with this guy's order, etc., etc. Whereas what you should really be focusing on is how am I going to get this new product line up and running, or how am I going to get this? Or it needs to really be like, what's that? The orchestra. That's what you want.
Yeah.
With the guy with the stick.
Yeah. What's that?
Essentially, and I
Conductor.
Don't get me wrong. I still think. Yeah, the conductor.
Yeah.
I still think there is the aspect of, like, don't get me wrong, if there is an issue or something of that nature that needs to be dealt with, it'd be smart or wise for you to get involved and try to get it fixed. But day-to-day operations, I think the less that you need to do of like the nitty-gritty work, and the more you can focus on that creative aspect, at least for myself and my brother, which is where we excel, the better.
Find your strengths and utilize them, really. Spend more time on what you're really good at, and then get other people to do the things that you're not so good at, so you can do what you're good at more, which is going to grow it. Yeah.
If I was really good at ads, like extremely good, I would do them. And for some people they might be. I still think though, regardless of how good you are, the beauty of having that marketing team that we found is that they had so many people that were experts in different aspects of marketing.
Yeah.
And through that they combined, which is something which maybe unless I study for the next 25 years of my life, I'll get to that point.
Yeah.
So, which is something I'm not interested in.
Exactly.
I like creating products. I like being hands-on, and I like being with people.
Yeah.
Finding ways to make my brand or my product or my service out there and give it that edge over others, or coming up with new ideas. And I definitely believe in, I don't know if you've ever looked into the concept of the purple cow.
I have not heard of that one.
So
The
the
purple cow
Cow,
concept.
it's a book. I forgot the author of the book. It's a small book. But the theory of it all is when it comes to at least a service or a product, how to make it stand out. It's really about having it stand out, and it's talking about how, like, if you're driving through a field and you see a bunch of brown cows, you don't really care.
Yeah.
But if you see a purple cow, it's going to make you stop.
Stop. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the same kind of concept when it comes to your product. Whether it's whatever the product is that you're selling, you want to make something that makes people stop and go,
Yeah.
Is
it another shirt? Or hang on, this is a ridiculous different shirt. Hang on, it's got my attention. It stands out from the rest.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And that's something that me and my brother, we've taken into account with a lot of the stuff we've done with business so far, is like, how can our product be that purple cow? How can it differentiate from every other product that's being produced? And that's what, like, right now we're working on. We're working within the surf industry, like I said before, and we're working within the wax aspect of it all, and we're looking at different ways that we can create surf wax that's different to what it's been traditionally made.
Yeah.
For the last
however
30,
long,
40 years or whatever. But yeah.
Just changing things up that are already there, but standing out a little bit. So
yeah, it doesn't necessarily have to be something brand new, but it can change it up. And like, for instance, there's a company in the US that did something as small as, instead of having paint in a cylinder can, they put it in a cube.
Right.
And they did very well, because someone would go in and be like,
easier to stack it.
It's in a cube. You know what I mean?
You always see like cans of round paint, and it just doesn't, stack them all in cubes. It just shoves into the corner. It's all nicely packed away.
Yeah,
it's a smart idea.
Yeah.
So when you first got into e-commerce, like, obviously you were still really young. What was your overall goal? Did you have like an overall intention? Like, okay, I want to be doing this, or I'm doing this e-commerce. I know you said that you wanted to not work the 9 to 5, which is a great thing to realize at so young. But did you have like an end goal that you wanted to reach, or was it just, let's just see how this goes?
I think at the time my goals might have been much bigger than what they are now, in regards to at least society's measure of it all.
Mm-hmm.
I think at the time when I got into e-commerce, it was the whole thing of like, I want to create some crazy big company. I want to be one of the big dogs within,
the big elites,
not necessarily e-commerce, but within business. And then I think over time, with traveling and experiencing different places, including the Philippines and Mexico, and having different life experiences, I started to realize that maybe that's not who I am. And that was when I started to go more within. And for now, my goals have differed. I definitely still want to get involved in business and do well within business, but it's not on the basis of
not to the extreme
accumulating
level,
endless wealth, or trying to compete with anybody else or anything like that. It's more so I want to do it in a way where I can just enjoy it, and then if I do come by extreme amounts of wealth through it, I can push that into communities and do good things with that. But in general, back then, I think I was as well still a naive teenager for the most part.
We all start somewhere, right? We've all been there.
Yeah, I bought into the whole thing at the time, at least for myself, of like
fancy clothes, nice cars, big mansions,
version of materialism and what success is. And I think now I've reached a point in my life where there's not much I feel I need. There's not much I feel I need material on a material basis. There's really not much at all. And
it's funny. So I
think that's a good.
Go on. Sorry.
I was gonna say I think that's a very good place to be for me, and I think the reason why I say that is because like everything at this point that I get is a bonus.
Yeah.
Whereas when I was younger, it was really like,
I need more. I don't have enough. Yeah. It's funny, and this is the whole sort of concept, I believe, is like, so you've gone from young, naive 19-year-old, like, I want big cars, I want a mansion, I want nice clothes. And I suppose at any point in that journey, because you were traveling around the world, did you feel like, this is it, I'm successful, I've made it so far at that point, before your mind had shifted to other things? At what point did you go,
No.
no, or you just always wanted more? You were like, I'm still not successful. I need more. I need bigger.
Nah, there was always bigger. There was always better. And I think I found that as well.
Never satisfied.
With me. Yeah, with meeting a lot of the celebrities and athletes and whatnot, it was the same mentality for them. It was always, there's nothing wrong with not being satisfied and
Wanting more.
There's nothing wrong with seeking more. There's nothing, but the understanding that what you have now isn't enough. I think there's something wrong with that, at least for me at the time, because what I had was more than enough. And I think if you can find gratitude in the now moment by being in that element of gratitude, the universe or God or whatever it is that one believes in will multiply that for them. And I think for myself at the time, I wasn't in a place of gratitude. It was constantly, look at him, look at the Elon Musks of the world.
That's it. Always comparing to someone else, right?
Yeah. I think as soon as I stopped doing that, and I started going more within, and I started focusing more within, then you start to realize within, who are you? Not who are you that you want to be to other people, but who do you want to be to yourself?
Yeah.
And I think for me, at least when I went to the Philippines the first time, living in a hut on a beach in the middle of nowhere, without a phone, without friends, without much, and being the happiest I've ever been.
It's funny.
Realizing that, in the middle of nowhere, that this is the greatest that I've been. It was because I went within, and I got to go within there. I came out of that and I realized I don't really need anything. I don't need anyone, or I don't need anything that before. Because before, what I realized was I drew the dots and I realized that everything I was doing was to impress others.
Yeah.
Or was to find a way to impress others, to kind of give myself validation. But once you already give yourself validation, you don't need to impress
anyone else. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Everything you're doing now is just for yourself. And then I had to dig deep and ask myself, all those material things that I wanted, did I really want them? Were they really going to bring me happiness? Or
was
were
it
they to try
validation? Yeah.
So
would you say, now that you've had that sort of mindset shift and you've changed that perspective about life, would you say you're more successful now in the situation you are now, living in Mexico with your beautiful girlfriend and the freedom of, minimalistic living, than you were when you're at your peak with your e-commerce business? Or would you say you've sort of dropped back a bit? Yeah?
No, definitely. I definitely think the way that I'm living now, I would say, is the most successful I've been, on the basis that I'm the happiest I've been. And I don't have any reason not to be happy. You know what I mean?
But that's the key, isn't it? Your happiness.
Yeah, exactly. My mental state is where I'll base my
level of success.
Base my level of success. And I think if my mental state is in such a high position, how can I say that I'm not successful, if that makes sense?
Of course it does. I mean, you see some people who are working their ass off, they've got mansions, but they're paying, you don't realize that behind the scenes they're paying, hundreds of $1,000s on their mortgage each year or whatever it is, and interest, and they're miserable and sad. But the freedom now of having very little and you're just happy and living on a higher frequency gives you that sort of like relief and that realization. Even though you've got less, the stress and the happiness and the general whole of living is more comfortable and free.
Definitely. And I think I've met a lot of people and I've dealt with a lot of people that typically, if you ask them on paper, especially like the celebrity culture, you ask them on paper like how successful they are, and on paper they'll be greatly successful, but then you talk to these people, and even people within business, and they're upset, they're not happy people, and they have their own issues. What people don't understand is money doesn't eliminate issues. There's always issues. You're going to find a new reason to find an issue.
Yeah.
If you can't be happy in this now moment, regardless of your financial situation or regardless of your situation as a whole, you're going to struggle to be happy in any future situation, because it's all relevant. And it depends. Like, of course, there's certain things that, whether it's someone's sick or someone's died, okay, I get that. But in general, I feel like a lot of people I know, in any situation, they'll find an excuse to make it a sad or an upsetting situation. But you just need to be the opposite. You need to be able to find it to be, in any situation, a joyful and appreciative situation. And through that, If you work with the power of the mind, and this is something that we've talked on and touched on quite a bit before,
Yeah.
It multiplies what you give attention to. So if you're in a state of appreciation, it's going to give you more reason to appreciate.
Yeah, and I suppose that's the same sort of concept. Like if you can find pure happiness in the little things and be super grateful, and this is kind of what my hypothesis, I suppose, to this whole show is based on, is that, you know, if I believe that I'm successful with the little successes and little wins that I've got and the little that I've got now, will that then grow and bring and attract and bring more of the things that I see as success? So maybe doing like one episode is successful and just seeing that, rather than having a 100 episode show. But if I'm grateful and understanding that this is successful, like it's so successful that I've actually launched my first show, then that'll bring an ease and into bringing more and an abundance of more shows and more people and that sort of growth, I suppose.
Well, I think it's as well going back to the thing of not comparing, because of course if you're going to compare yourself to someone that's been doing this for, let's use Tony Robbins, the last 30 years,
Yeah.
then
why don't I like Tony Robbins after my first episode, you know, of course.
Yeah, but you've also got to understand that just the idea of lifting up the laptop and having this conversation and putting it out there is not a small success, it's a huge success.
Yeah.
Then it's not, we need to stop comparing ourselves to others, because it's different. Their position is different, and the road that they've walked is very different, and how long they've been doing whatever it is very different. And as soon as we can just be in that moment and have joy in what we're doing, it's not about looking at that end position that you're going to be in. It's about being present to where you are now and actually having joy in doing that.
Yeah.
And if you don't have joy in doing that, then you're doing the wrong thing.
But then why are you doing it? Yeah. I mean, that's a very, very good point. I mean, and there's obviously hard times, and there's obviously times where you wish that, okay, maybe this is difficult, but I think that's all about the growth. You know, I'm nervous, or, you know, this is hard. Should I keep going? I think that's an okay position. But at the end of the day, you know, for example, once I finish this show, am I going to be happy? Like, yeah, even though it might have been nerving or hard or trying to get all the technicals right, am I happy with it? Like, is it joyful? Yes, it is. So then keep going and push yourself during those uncomfortable moments. And
definitely.
Keep growing.
And I definitely think as well, I'm sure with your travels and everything else, you've met some really crazy individuals, and you'll have them on here, and I'm sure
hopefully, yeah.
Hopefully each one of them you learn something.
Well, that's my goal. That's my overall goal.
Exactly. So I think it's a brilliant concept, and I think just going back to the whole thing of the success of it all, I think the day you start, it's successful, and then from there onwards, it's what you make of it.
That's very true. I'd never thought about it in that perspective. It's a really interesting shift of perspective to sort of see, and I think that will help the growth. I think that's definitely one on the notepad. Thanks. So
that's okay.
So what would you say up to this date? Because you've had quite a bit. You've sort of had a bit of the fame site, and then you've had, you know, the mind shift about what is. What do you think the biggest challenge you had up to date has been so far, and how did you get through that?
I think we've had quite a few different challenges. I think for me, the biggest challenge so far in recent times was that whole mental shift of the understanding of really digging deep to who I am and what I want out of my life and what I want to do. And if I am involved within business and finance, what do I want to do with that? Because for me, I don't need a lot of money. I don't need a lot of money to be able to travel and do the things that I'm doing. And then on top of that, there's not a whole lot of material things that I want to try and buy and get under my belt.
So kind of inner battle.
Yeah, it's an inner battle, but it's also like, okay, so if I am going to go down this route of business, which is something that I love, what's my motivation going to be then to build a company that within an industry that I love and that I enjoy, that I can be proud of,
Excuse me.
while simultaneously being able to take profits from that and help people.
Yeah, so the overall goal sort of shifted and changed.
Yeah, definitely. And then aside from that, I think there's always, with business, there's always a new issue.
Yeah, I suppose that's true, right?
Yeah, like I think it was Elon Musk who said like entrepreneurship is drinking a glass of eating glass and staring into the abyss.
Yeah, I think I've heard that one before. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It feels like that sometimes.
I think there's aspects of entrepreneurship depending on what you're doing. I think there are aspects of it that it's not built for everyone. I don't think it's
Oh,
built for everyone to be their own boss. I think some people will understand that you're dependent. You're dependent on your paycheck at the end of the day. You're dependent on your livelihood. No one's going to help you and say, "Oh, you're sick today. Don't come into work. We'll pay you." It's like, no.
yeah.
There can be a lot of pressure, and when bad things happen and people get upset, and like we had on stage, I think 200 orders that were stuck in customs. When you have 200 customers messaging you, some of them sending you death threats because their item hasn't arrived in the 3-week span that you promised. Especially for me back then, I didn't know how to handle it. I didn't know how to take that in because you feel like you let people down.
Well, that was going to be my next question. You know, when you've got that sort of moment of everything's on top of you, shit, this is hard. Have I gone too deep? Like, maybe this isn't the right move. Like, should I pack it all in? Which I'm sure you may have had at some points. What did you tell yourself? Like, what was going through your head, or what kind of things did you think about to try and push you through those really difficult times where you're like, shit, man, I've just gone too far. I should just quit. What made you not?
Here's the thing with Toby Sneaker. It was all fresh to us. A lot of it was new, so we didn't know how to react. It was kind of in the moment, like freaking out. Although, with that being said, with the businesses that we did after that, whenever we had similar situations, whenever I had angry customers or whatnot, we knew how to approach it. I knew that the first thing I'm going to do is, if my customer is angry, is regardless of what they message me, I'm going to respond to them so they know that I'm there.
Yeah, just that communication.
And what I found with Toba Sneaker was, as soon as those products got out of customs and people got them, people were happy. They forgot. I had someone that messaged me saying, "I hope you die," and then
that's
the
crazy.
Following week they messaged me saying that they love their product and they're so sorry. So from that, I realized, I was like, okay, in this moment, I can, whether it's whatever business we do, if people do get angry, you reassure them, and regardless if they're angry, you reassure them, and then when their items do arrive, usually or not, they will be happy again. Or at least something of that nature. But in that moment, it can feel very real, and you think that a keyboard warrior is being so dead serious, like you've ruined their life because they spent a couple $100 on a product of yours and it hasn't arrived yet. But
you got to sort of zoom out and look at the bigger concept. It's like, this person's angry. It's like, hang on a minute, this person's lost a couple $100. They're upset they didn't get their product. Like, are they really going to come and kill me? Am I really taking this too much on my shoulders? I need to take a step back and look at the bigger picture and be like, okay, it sucks, let's reassure them, but it's not going to be the end of my world, sort of thing.
Yeah, exactly. And I think for the most part, like for a lot of them, it's not the end of their world.
And
sometimes it's as simple as like taking the loss and giving a refund, just to put people's minds at ease. And like we've handed out a lot of refunds with shipping issues with COVID, and had the same people message us a few weeks later and say, "Oh, I'm so sorry, the product arrived. I'm happy to pay you again." They don't have to do that.
They could have kept it
just walk away. Yeah, exactly. And that's happened more times than
you'd like to think. Yeah,
and at least it shows that there are good people out there. But at the same time, like in that moment, now dealing with customer service and whatnot, I'm not as uptight on myself, because when I first got involved in it, it felt like the whole world was being pushed on top of me with so many people angry, at least at that moment in time.
Yeah,
so
you got to treat it a bit like water off a duck's back, really, don't you? Sometimes it's like, treat them, respect them, let them know, but I can't take it personally that something else has happened. Otherwise, it's just going to be crippling, I guess.
Definitely. I definitely think within business, there are a lot of people that you'll upset, whether you like it or not.
Yeah, that's the truth of it, isn't it?
For some people like that, at least when I got involved in that, I didn't realize it would be like that. There were people that we know that like we teamed up with and we worked with, and we wish that it didn't end up the way that it did, but unfortunately it was just due to the situation, and they respected it, but at the same time we wished we could have done more for them, you know what I mean? And I guess that's business though.
That's business sometimes, isn't it?
Yeah. So
well, man, it's been absolutely great. I've got absolute fire from you. We've almost been an hour talking, and most of our conversations go like that. Then 1 minute you're talking, next minute's an hour or so later. But I do have 2 final questions I want to give to you. The first one, being from Australia, what would be the one thing you'd go back and tell your 17-year-old self? I suppose for you it's a bit different because you started at 17, so you just started young and jumped into it. What would be the one thing you'd tell yourself back at 17?
I think if I could go back to when I was 17, I don't know if I would tell myself a whole lot when it comes to business in regards to advice, just on the basis that I think a lot of what I learned through my experiences I wouldn't change. But maybe more so my mentality towards it all, and that maybe the amount of pressure that I would put on myself to be successful in society's eyes. It's a falsified lie.
Yeah, don't give a shit what other people think so much. I know it's hard at such a young age when you just want to be the coolest kid or have the most things or be like, the people you see on TV, but reality is like,
definitely
don't give a shit about their opinions.
More so go within and do what I know within my heart that
Very nice.
I love. And I think that's what I would say.
I think that's pretty valuable for anyone at any age, really, that sort of advice. I think that's pretty powerful advice. All right, and question number 2, if you could have the answer to any question in the world, what would that question be? It's a hard question, I know, but it's the one I love.
You really haven't given me one that I need to think about.
That's right.
I can have the answer to any question.
So for me personally, just to help you out, because it is obviously the first, for me, I'd love to know what's on the other side of a black hole. That for me is just mind blowing, and I'd love to have the answer to that question somehow, but I think it's almost impossible to get, and maybe that's why I like that. But that would be the answer. I'd want the answer to that question. Is there anything you can think of?
Maybe what happens when we die.
Yeah, I think that's something that fascinates me as well.
Yeah. I think the idea of life ending and then where we go from there and what occurs after that. I feel like that's a whole
nother conversation. Yeah, that's a great question and a different spirituality world. But once again, Manny, thank you so much. It's always a pleasure talking to you. I find that for such a young man, you got a head full of lots of wisdom and have a lot of stuff going for you. So it's always interesting to chat to you. And thank you so much for being my first guest on this show. Like I said, I'm learning.
Thank you for having me. I've really enjoyed this, and I think you've been a great host.
Thank you very much. We'll have to maybe 6 months down the track, we can have another one and see how the changes have gone and see where your changes have gone as well.
It sounds good to me.
All right, sweet. Well, thanks everyone who jumped in live on YouTube or on Facebook or on Instagram. I still don't know if you could hear me on Instagram, so sorry about that. This is my first interview, so there's lots of stuff that I'm learning. There's lots of stuff that I'm learning from my guests, and I'm hoping to implement all that into the upcoming shows. As it is Thanksgiving to people in the States, I would just want to say thank you for listening in. If you're watching this on a replay on YouTube or on Facebook, thank you very much. Please send some love to Manny, and a big thank you for some of the, I'm sure if you were taking notes, you would have got some big valuable lessons out of him today. But thanks again. It's been great. Next week we will be on 2nd December, same time. Still trying to figure out the time. It's hard when you've got people from all over the world to go live, but I'll be on with another young entrepreneur, Trevor Johnson. He's a friend of mine and Manny's now, and he's making himself quite a time and financial freedom life at such a young age. Again, so much wisdom to come from him, but I'm looking forward to that. Thank you yet again to everyone, and I'm going to figure out how to end this. So,
well, I'll jump off for now. But again, thank you so much for having me, and I wish you the best with all of